She had the clipboard, the designer heels, and 6 years of HOA dictatorship. What she didn't have was the legal right to any of it. Linda Hawthorne stood in my driveway that Tuesday morning, waving a violation notice like a royal decree. $500 monthly for parking my own trucks on my own property. The audacity was breathtaking. These HOA tyrants thought they owned my life. While threatening to foreclose my house for too many vehicles, her husband's massive RV sat permanently in their yard like a monument to hypocrisy. The woman actually believed she could steal my home while violating her own rules. What Linda didn't know would destroy her completely. Buried in dusty county records was something that would flip this entire power dynamic, something that would transform her from neighborhood dictator into criminal defendant faster than concrete sets in summer heat. Have you ever wanted to absolutely demolish someone who thought they had power over you? Because that's exactly what happened here, and the revenge was so sweet it's still legendary in Riverside County. My name is Mike Torres. I'm 52 and I run Torres Concrete Solutions here in Riverside, California. Third-generation contractor? My grandfather started with a wheelbarrow and a dream, my dad built it into a real business, and I turned it into a $2.3 million operation with 15 local guys on payroll. 6 months earlier, I'd gone through a divorce that felt like financial surgery without anesthesia. Nothing dramatic, just two people who grew apart. I needed a fresh start, so I bought this pristine 3-bedroom ranch house in Maple Ridge subdivision for $485,000 cash. Perfect neighborhood where you could smell fresh mulch and Saturday morning coffee drifting from every driveway mixed with the sweet scent of jasmine climbing white picket fences. I put another $30,000 into landscaping because I believe in doing things right. My 3 work trucks, a concrete mixer, flatbed, and crew pickup sat neatly in my circular driveway like sleeping giants. That's when I met Linda Hawthorne. Meeting Linda was like stepping on a landmine disguised as a welcome mat. Picture a 58-year-old retired bank manager who'd been HOA president for 6 years running unopposed. She lived in the neighborhood's crown jewel, a massive colonial that probably cost $800,000. This woman measured grass height with an actual ruler and carried a clipboard on her morning inspection walks. Her designer heels clicked on the pavement like a metronome counting down to somebody's doom. Every morning at exactly 8:15 a.m. The first time she introduced herself, I should have called a moving truck. Welcome to Maple Ridge, Mr. Torres, I trust you understand our community maintains certain standards. Not nice to meet you or welcome to the neighborhood. Community standards like she was immigration and I was applying for a visa. For 3 months, everything seemed fine. I kept my property magazine perfect, helped elderly Mrs. Morgan next door with groceries, even fixed her cracked walkway for free. My trucks were parked legally in my own driveway, same as everyone else's boats, RVs, and luxury cars. Then came that Tuesday morning in October when my doorbell rang at 7:30 a.m. mail carrier with a certified letter. Violation notice screamed in bold red letters. Commercial vehicles exceed community aesthetic standards and negatively impact property values. Immediate compliance required or face escalating penalties. Linda demanded I pay a $500 monthly aesthetic impact fee or remove my trucks entirely. $500 for parking my legal work vehicles on my own property that I owned outright. I spent that evening reading every page of my HOA covenants twice. No mention of commercial vehicle restrictions anywhere. But here's the beautiful irony. Every Wednesday, Linda's landscaping crew parked their diesel trailer, industrial mowers, and chemical tanks right in front of her house for 4 hours. When I knocked on her door that evening to discuss this like adults, Linda stood in her doorway like she was defending the Alamo. Mrs. Hawthorne, I reviewed the covenants. There's no restriction on work vehicles. The board has authority to implement new rules for community welfare. Your industrial trucks are inappropriate for a residential area, but your landscapers park commercial vehicles here weekly. Her smile could have frozen antifreeze. That's different. That's maintenance service, not industrial storage. In that moment, watching her face, I realized this wasn't about trucks or property values. This was about power, control, and maybe something uglier, like deciding who deserved to live in her neighborhood. Linda didn't waste time escalating this war. 3 days later, I found another certified letter. Emergency HOA board meeting scheduled for Thursday at 7 p.m. 24 hours notice for a meeting that would address ongoing community compliance issues. I showed up to find exactly 3 people in Linda's living room. Herself, her neighbor Margaret Finch, and some rental property owner named Bob. 3 out of 7 board members. "Thank you for coming, Mr. Torres," Linda said, settling into her wingback chair like a discount dictator. "We've called this meeting to address the commercial vehicle situation." I pulled out my phone and started recording. This meeting violates HOA bylaws requiring 7-day advance notice. Linda's smile could have curdled milk. Emergency situations allow expedited proceedings. The board has voted, Linda announced. Commercial vehicle ordinance passes. You have until Monday to comply or face $100 daily fines. I leaned back. "You voted?" "I didn't see any vote." "We voted before you arrived," Margaret mumbled without eye contact. "Beautiful. A secret vote before an illegal meeting to pass an invalid ordinance." That weekend, I did some investigating. Turns out Linda's son, Danny, runs Hawthorne Landscaping and parks his trailer, industrial mowers, and chemical tanks overnight in our neighborhood twice a week. Not during service calls, overnight storage. Meanwhile, Linda's husband, Frank, had a 35-foot RV and boat trailer permanently planted in their side yard like monuments to hypocrisy. Monday morning arrived with the sweet sound of opportunity knocking. The next board meeting was Tuesday evening at the community center, and I came armed with evidence. I'd invited Mrs. Morgan and neighbor Jake Patterson as witnesses. Before we discuss my trucks, I announced, standing with my evidence folder, "Let's address some enforcement inconsistencies." I spread photos across the table like a poker dealer. Danny's landscaping trailer parked overnight on Maple Street. Frank's RV violating their own aesthetic standards. 3 other neighbors with work vans, boats, and recreational vehicles somehow invisible to Linda's eagle eyes. "This is targeted harassment," I continued. "You've created rules specifically to attack me while exempting your friends and family." Linda's face was approaching the color of a fire truck. "Those are different situations." "How exactly?" "Mr. Hawthorne's RV is grandfathered under previous regulations." "Show me those regulations." More silence. "And your son's overnight parking?" "That's temporary business equipment staging." "My trucks are temporary business equipment staging." Jake Patterson raised his hand. "When were these grandfather clauses established?" Bob shifted like his chair was made of needles. "We haven't formally documented." "So they don't exist," I interrupted. "You're improvising exemptions in real time." Linda shot up from her chair. "This meeting is about Mr. Torres's non-compliance, not board authority. Actually, this meeting is about selective enforcement and discrimination. I'm recording everything for my attorney, and every ridiculous excuse you've made tonight just became evidence." "Mrs. Hawthorne," I said, "either enforce your rules equally or admit they're bogus." "But I'm not paying extortion fees for violations that half the neighborhood commits daily." Linda's composure finally shattered. "Mr. Torres, if you continue this disruptive behavior, we'll be forced to take stronger action." Linda's stronger action arrived like a plague of locusts. Wednesday morning, I was loading concrete mix when a white city van pulled up. Out stepped Linda with some guy in a clipboard and hard hat, her former colleague from the planning department. "Anonymous complaints about noise and safety violations," she announced smugly. I watched this inspector walk around my property for 20 minutes, measuring setbacks, checking permits, photographing everything. Linda stood behind him, pointing at my trucks and whispering suggestions. When he finished, the inspector actually smiled and shook my hand. "Beautiful setup, Mr. Torres. Your concrete pad exceeds code requirements. Trucks are properly registered and your property maintenance is exemplary. No violations found." Linda's face went through more color changes than a mood ring in a microwave. But Linda wasn't done playing games. 2 days later, I got a certified letter from the State Contractor Licensing Board claiming anonymous complaints about illegal business operations from residential property. The complaint was detailed, specific, and completely fabricated. I'd bet my favorite sledgehammer that Linda's fingerprints were all over this paperwork. While dealing with that bureaucratic nightmare, I decided to investigate Linda's background more thoroughly. She'd filed for bankruptcy 3 years ago, then refinanced her house twice in 18 months. Her credit report showed more red flags than a Soviet military parade. Most interesting was a pattern that made my blood pressure spike. She'd been targeting specific homeowners for violations, and every single one had sold their houses within 6 months at below-market prices. This wasn't just about my trucks. Linda was running a systematic harassment campaign designed to force out working-class families and bring in higher-income residents. I hired attorney Patricia Valdez, who specialized in HOA disputes and had a reputation for turning board presidents into legal roadkill. After reviewing my documentation, Patricia filed formal complaints about selective enforcement and requested complete audits of HOA finances and Linda's decision-making process. Linda's response was predictably thermonuclear. She called a special assessment vote for neighborhood beautification, proposing a $5,000 per household fee. After the meeting, Linda cornered me in the parking lot. "Mr. Torres, this could all go away if you'd just be reasonable about your truck situation." I pulled out my phone and started recording. Define reasonable. Her eyes glittered like broken glass. A modest relocation fee to cover administrative costs, say $50,000. There it was. Attempted extortion caught on digital recording. The community was fracturing faster than concrete in an earthquake. Working families organized resistance meetings in Jake Patterson's garage while Linda's supporters formed her neighborhood standards committee. Mrs. Morgan confided that Linda had visited her, suggesting elderly residents might be happier in senior communities. 3 more families received foreclosure threats over manufactured violations. Jake got cited for his kids' bicycles being improperly stored in his own garage. But Linda had made one catastrophic mistake. She declared war on someone who was about to discover he possessed legal weapons of mass destruction in this particular battle. The discovery that obliterated Linda's entire world happened on a rainy Thursday afternoon in the county recorder's office. Attorney Patricia had suggested researching the original subdivision development to strengthen our harassment case. What we found instead was legal plutonium. Dorothy, the perpetually cheerful clerk, pulled out the original subdivision plat from 1987. The yellowed papers crackled like autumn leaves. My property wasn't listed like the others. Instead of standard residential designation, mine was marked Master Developer Lot with covenant language that made Patricia's eyes bulge. "Holy Mike," Patricia whispered. "Do you realize what you're sitting on?" I squinted at the legal hieroglyphics. "Enlighten me before I have a heart attack from suspense." She jabbed her finger at specific clauses. "Your property retains master developer rights from original subdivision creation. The builder kept approval authority over all HOA decisions and those rights transfer automatically with ownership." The revelation hit me like a sledgehammer. "You're saying I can veto Linda's rules?" Patricia's grin could have powered the building's electricity. "Not just veto. According to these covenants, master developer has approval authority over all new ordinances, assessment changes, and board decisions. Linda's commercial vehicle ordinance, dead without your signature. Her special assessments, legally worthless. Her fines, invalid fantasies from a powerless dictator." We spent 2 hours excavating this legal gold mine. The original developer had died 5 years ago. His estate sale included my house and all master developer privileges. The previous owner either missed this jackpot or didn't care. But everything had transferred to me automatically. I'd been wielding nuclear weapons while Linda attacked me with foam pool noodles. Patricia outlined the full scope of my inherited superpowers. Master developer traditionally holds 51% voting weight in HOA matters. You can remove board members with 30-day notice. You can override any rules implemented without your approval. And here's the beautiful part, you can demand financial damages for harm caused by invalid board actions. Beyond personal vindication, I felt something more powerful brewing. Linda had systematically terrorized working families, threatened elderly residents like Mrs. Morgan, and discriminated against anyone failing her suburban perfection standards. Now I possessed legal authority to demolish her reign of terror and rescue every family she'd victimized. We could destroy Linda's operation immediately, Patricia continued. But strategic patience will maximize damage. Let her continue excavating this crater while we document everything. When we publicly reveal your master developer status, the psychological impact will be devastating. Every rule she's passed, every fine she's issued, every threat she's made becomes evidence of board fraud and potential criminal activity. The next phase felt like assembling the ultimate construction crew for the most satisfying demolition project of my career. Saturday morning, my kitchen table became mission control. Patricia and I mapped our strategy. We're not just stopping Linda, she explained. We're building a case that protects every family and ensures this nightmare never repeats. Bobby Morgan, our forensic accountant, became our financial detective. When I showed him Linda's HOA expense reports, his reaction was immediate. Mike, this woman's been treating community funds like her personal ATM. These administrative consultation fees perfectly match her bankruptcy lawyer's billing cycles. Jake Patterson transformed his spare bedroom into a surveillance command center. Timeline charts covered every wall. Every harassment incident gets documented with timestamps and witness statements, Jake explained. Linda's discrimination pattern will be so obvious that a legally blind judge could convict her. Bobby's financial investigation uncovered $47,000 in unauthorized diversions from reserve funds, including Linda's personal legal fees disguised as community consultations. Her expense report showed payments to her son's landscaping company at 30% above market rates. Most explosive was evidence of kickback arrangements with Pinnacle Properties, where Linda received consulting fees for facilitating neighborhood disruption that would benefit redevelopment schemes. Our intelligence operation expanded to document Linda's harassment methodology. Jake's photographs captured selective enforcement in vivid detail. Her son's industrial equipment parked overnight while my legal trucks faced daily persecution. Her husband's massive RV violating aesthetic standards she imposed on others. We catalogued every double standard, every discriminatory action, every authority abuse. Meanwhile, I maintained normal routines while secretly preparing Linda's public execution. My concrete business continued serving neighborhood customers despite her intimidation campaigns. Linda's desperation reached nuclear levels when she realized her harassment campaign wasn't working. I received a foreclosure notice claiming authority to seize my property for accumulated violations and unpaid assessments. She'd scheduled foreclosure proceedings for the following month, apparently convinced that financial terrorism would force me to surrender. What Linda didn't know was that every threatening document she filed was digging her legal grave deeper. The sabotage started subtly. My work trucks began experiencing mysterious problems. Sugar in gas tanks, slashed tires, and scratched paint. While Linda maintained plausible deniability by being conspicuously visible during each incident, she'd scheduled her morning inspection walks to coincide perfectly with my discovery of damaged equipment. But Linda's most devious move targeted my business reputation directly. Anonymous complaints flooded the Better Business Bureau. Fake online reviews appeared overnight describing fictional disasters. The digital assault was coordinated like a military psychological operation designed to destroy my livelihood. Through all this escalation, I maintained the calm demeanor of someone holding royal flush cards. Linda was burning through her credibility while I collected evidence. Every harassment attempt was documented. Every false report was recorded. Every abuse of authority was photographed for future legal proceedings. The annual HOA meeting arrived like Judgment Day. 89 of our 94 homeowners packed into a room designed for 50. Local news crews positioned their cameras at the back. Officer Martinez from the sheriff's department stood near the exit. Linda entered like a queen approaching her coronation, designer heels clicking with military precision. She wore her most expensive suit and carried a leather portfolio, radiating confidence that would have been impressive if it wasn't about to be obliterated. "Thank you all for attending tonight's crucial meeting," Linda announced. "We have important business regarding neighborhood improvements and compliance enforcement." Sarah Mills stood first, presenting a petition with 67 signatures opposing Linda's harassment campaign. "Mrs. Hawthorne, this petition represents families demanding your immediate resignation for abuse of authority, selective enforcement, and discrimination against working-class residents." The crowd erupted in applause. Jake Patterson followed with his documentation project, reading a timeline of harassment incidents. Violation notices targeting single mothers. Elderly residents threatened with incompetency proceedings and systematic persecution of minority homeowners. This isn't community improvement. It's ethnic cleansing disguised as property management. Mrs. Morgan struggled to her feet, her voice trembling. "You tried to have me declared incompetent because my garden doesn't match your standards. You threatened to take away my home because I'm old and foreign." Tears streaming down her cheeks, she continued, "This is America. You cannot steal our homes because we're different." The room exploded in supportive applause while Linda's remaining allies looked like they wanted to crawl under the table. That's when I stood up, briefcase in hand, and walked toward the podium with measured pace. The crowd noise faded to cathedral silence. Before Mrs. Hawthorne continues threatening foreclosures and seizures, I announced, "She should know something important about my property deed." I placed the master developer covenant on the overhead projector. The crowd gasped collectively as the legal language appeared on screen. "According to county records and HOA covenants, my property retains master developer rights from original subdivision creation. Every rule change, every assessment, every board decision requires my approval." The silence was so complete you could hear the ventilation system cycling. Linda's face drained of color faster than water down a broken pipe. "Those documents are fraudulent," she whispered, her voice cracking. "You're lying to manipulate this community." But Patricia was already approaching the podium with authenticated county paperwork and legal opinions. "Mrs. Hawthorne," I continued, enjoying every second of her complete meltdown. "As master developer, I hereby declare all your ordinances void, all your fines invalid, and all your foreclosure threats legally worthless." The crowd erupted like a concrete plant explosion, cheering and applauding, while Linda sat frozen in disbelief. "Furthermore, I'm calling for immediate board removal based on financial mismanagement, abuse of authority, and civil rights violations." Patricia handed me Bobby's financial analysis showing $47,000 in embezzled funds. "Your illegal use of community money for personal expenses constitutes criminal fraud, and law enforcement will be investigating accordingly." Officer Martinez stepped forward as Linda attempted to flee. "Please remain seated. Detective Williams would like to speak with you about financial irregularities." The immediate aftermath felt like watching the sun rise after the longest night in history. Within 24 hours, Linda faced criminal charges for embezzlement, attempted extortion, and abuse of public trust. The district attorney's office filed additional charges for conspiracy and civil rights violations. Community transformation happened faster than concrete setting in summer heat. Our emergency board election took place that same evening with Sarah Mills unanimously elected president alongside a diverse group of working families. The new board's first official act was refunding every stolen penny. Mrs. Morgan received her refund with tears streaming down weathered cheeks, immediately spending the money on garden expansions featuring every flower color Linda had tried to prohibit. The HOA's insurance company, faced with Bobby's forensic accounting evidence, settled faster than a demolition crew clearing condemned buildings. All legal fees were covered, plus compensation for harassment victims, while Linda's frozen personal assets would fund community recovery for years. My concrete business exploded with referrals from grateful neighbors and regional customers who'd followed our story. 3 families who'd nearly lost their homes to Linda's foreclosure threats hired me for major improvement projects. Personal healing came through unexpected friendships. Jake Patterson and I bonded over shared interests, collaborating on improvement projects that brought families together. Sarah Mills organized monthly potluck dinners where diverse cuisines replaced contentious meetings. Our crowning achievement was the Neighborhood Heroes Scholarship established for local students pursuing trade careers. 18 months later, I'm standing in my driveway with morning coffee, watching kids play safely in streets where fear once ruled. My 3 work trucks gleam like monuments to perseverance while Mrs. Morgan waves from her spectacular garden that blooms with rebellious beauty. Our neighborhood has become the inclusive community Linda tried to destroy. Here's the bottom line. Ordinary people can defeat extraordinary tyranny when they stand together and fight smart. If you survived your own HOA nightmare, share your story in the comments below. And if this tale of neighborly revenge fired you up, smash that subscribe button for HOA Stories because we're just getting started with tales that prove bullies always get their comeuppance.